Welcome to a journey through time, where we'll explore 15 incredible things you could do in 1970s London that have completely vanished from today's sanitized capital. Picture this, a grimy, smoke-filled metropolis where punks ruled the King's Road and you could feed thousands of pigeons in Trafalgar Square without getting fined. The London of the 70s was raw, rebellious, and refreshingly unregulated. But here's the twist. While we've gained smartphone apps and artisanal coffee shops, we've lost something far more precious: the anarchic spirit that made London the world's most exciting city. Today's London might be cleaner and safer, yet it's become a playground for millionaires where a pint costs more than an entire night out did in 1975. Ready to discover what we've sacrificed on the altar of progress? In March 1974, Camden Market started with just 16 stalls in a former timber yard, operating only on Saturdays selling crafts and antiques. Dingwall's, the legendary venue that opened in 1973, was an intimate space where you could catch The Clash, the Ramones, or Blondie in their early days. The whole area was rough, authentic, and delightfully uncommercial. Locals actually shopped there for necessities, not novelty phone cases shaped like pizzas. Today's Camden has been transformed into a sanitized tourist destination, attracting 250,000 visitors weekly. Street food that once cost pennies now runs £15. Dingwall still exists, but as a corporate venue, while the market has expanded into a 7-day tourist trap, selling mass-produced, alternative merchandise. The genuine creative community that made Camden special has been priced out entirely. The Coach and Horses on Greek Street wasn't just any pub, it was the beating heart of Soho's bohemian scene, where Geoffrey Bernard held court and Francis Bacon bought rounds for anyone who'd listened to his theories on art. In the 70s, London had thousands of traditional pubs, each with its own character, regular cast of eccentrics, and stories etched into nicotine-stained walls. Today, we're losing pubs at an alarming rate, and those magnificent Victorian gin palaces have been gutted and converted into luxury apartments, starting at £500,000. The controversy. Many of these conversions happened despite community protests, with developers exploiting loopholes in planning laws. The Bull and Bush in Hampstead, where music hall stars once performed, nearly became a Tesco before locals fought back. But for every victory, 10 other pubs have vanished forever, taking with them the very spaces where working-class Londoners could afford to socialise. Imagine settling into your seat on the Circle Line, lighting up a Rothmans and nobody batting an eyelid. Until July 9th, 1984, you could smoke on London Underground trains, in cinemas while watching Get Carter, in hospitals while visiting sick relatives, and even in the back rows of aeroplanes. The 70s Londoner navigated life through a permanent fog of tobacco smoke that would make today's air quality alerts look like mountain fresh breezes. Before you hit that subscribe button, and trust me, you'll want to for what's coming next, let me paint you the full picture of this smoke-filled era. Teachers puffed away in staff rooms, doctors prescribed cigarettes for stress, and every pub was essentially a fumigation chamber where you couldn't see the other side of the room by closing time. Neal Street's Roxy Club opened on January 1st, 1977, and while the original management only lasted until April, the venue continued as London's punk mecca until 1978. For 50p, you could watch The Clash, The Damned, or Susie and the Banshees before they were famous, in a sweaty basement where the ceiling dripped condensation and the toilets overflowed. The venue held 200 people legally but regularly crammed in 400, with safety regulations that would give today's health inspectors heart palpitations. What made the Roxy special wasn't just the music, it was the democratization of performance. Anyone could grab the mic between sets, and many did. Johnny Rotten allegedly discovered several Sex Pistols members there, while future Culture Club drummer John Moss cut his teeth in the chaotic atmosphere. Today's London music venues require licenses, insurance, sound limiters, and security that would have killed punk rock before it drew its first breath. For over a century, Trafalgar Square's pigeon population numbered around 4,000, creating one of London's most iconic, if messy, tourist attractions. Street vendors sold birdseed for a few pence, and getting photographed covered in pigeons was practically mandatory for every tourist. The birds were so integral to London's identity that during World War II, the government secretly recruited Trafalgar Square pigeons for military service, using their homing abilities to carry messages from occupied Europe. Here's something fascinating you probably didn't know. Those pigeons were descendants of rock doves brought by the Romans, making them as much a part of London's heritage as the Tower of London itself. Yet, in 2003, Ken Livingstone banned pigeon feeding, calling them rats with wings. The population plummeted to just a couple hundred birds within 2 years. The square might be cleaner now, but it's lost that chaotic living quality that made it feel like a real city centre rather than a sterile tourist trap. Between 1973 and 1975, the former Derry and Tom's department store on Kensington High Street transformed into Biba, the most extraordinary shopping experience London has ever seen. This wasn't just a shop, it was a 7-floor Art Deco dreamland where you could buy everything from feather boas to tinned beans, all presented in themed departments that looked like film sets. The Rainbow Room restaurant featured live bands, flamingo pink walls, and a clientele that ranged from Mick Jagger to your nan from Peckham. What killed Biba wasn't lack of customers. 1 million people visited weekly at its peak. It was the collision between creative vision and commercial reality. Founder Barbara Hulanicki wanted to create a lifestyle fantasy. The board wanted profit margins. When they started demanding proper merchandise instead of the affordable glamour that made Biba special, the magic died. The building now houses various high street retailers, which perfectly symbolises how London traded imagination for sensible sandwiches. Dancing Until Dawn at Studio 54. Style clubs without cameras. The Embassy Club on Old Bond Street epitomised 70s nightlife. No photographs allowed, no questions asked, and definitely no social media posts ruining the mystery. These venues operated on pure word of mouth, creating an atmosphere where anything could happen because nothing would be documented. Princess Margaret might be doing the hustle next to a dustman from Dagenham, and by morning it was like it never happened. Elgin Avenue in Notting Hill, Frestonia in Nottingdale, Villa Road in Brixton. Entire communities of squatters transformed derelict Victorian houses into vibrant cultural centres throughout the 70s. This wasn't just about free accommodation, it was about creating alternative societies. Frestonia actually declared independence from Britain in 1977, issued its own passports, and applied to join the United Nations. The most remarkable aspect? While squatting itself wasn't explicitly legal, the Criminal Law Act of 1977 actually created the first specific criminal offences around squatting. Before that, the law was even murkier. You could move into an empty property, and as long as you secured it properly and didn't break in using force, the police often couldn't intervene. These squats birthed punk bands, radical theatres, and community kitchens that fed thousands. Today's London, where a parking space costs £300,000, would never tolerate such creative use of abandoned property. The Compton Cinema, the Piccadilly JC, the Continental. Soho streets were lined with establishments showing Continental films to raincoat-wearing clientele. These weren't hidden away. They had neon signs, promotional photos in glass cases, and ushers in bow ties. The Walterdor Company alone operated 12 cinemas showing everything from soft porn to hardcore European art films that combine nudity with pretentious philosophy. What's genuinely fascinating is how these venues accidentally became London's art house cinema network. When mainstream theatres wouldn't touch controversial films like Last Tango in Paris or In the Realm of the Senses, the sex cinemas showed them. Film critics would sheepishly review masterpieces playing between features with titles like Swedish Massage Parlour. Today's sanitised Soho, where a former strip club houses a Byron burger, has lost this accidental cultural function. The Routemaster bus wasn't just transport, it was mobile democracy. That open rear platform meant you could hop on at traffic lights, leap off between stops, and generally treat London streets like your personal playground. Conductors ruled these buses like benevolent dictators, helping old ladies with shopping, ejecting drunks with theatrical flair, and occasionally letting broke students ride for free. The death of the Routemaster on December 9th, 2005, despite Boris Johnson's failed revival attempt with the new Routemaster, represented more than losing an icon. It symbolised London's transformation from a city that trusted people to one that bubble wraps its citizens. The new buses, with their sealed doors and CCTV cameras, might be safer and more accessible, but they've turned passengers from participants into processed cargo. That spontaneous urban ballet of running for a departing bus and making it just in time. Gone forever. Now, here's where things get really interesting. And if you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, hit that subscribe button because we're about to reveal some truly shocking changes to London life. When Richard Branson opened Virgin Megastore on Oxford Street in 1979, he created more than a record shop. He built a cultural institution. The store featured listening booths where you could spend entire afternoons sampling imports, a dedicated punk section that horrified parents and staff who actually knew the difference between Cannes and Cabaret Voltaire. The basement became legendary for its import section, where Japanese pressings and American promos cost a week's wages but came with exclusive tracks. Here's the real tragedy. Virgin Megastore didn't just sell music, it created musical communities. Saturday afternoons saw impromptu gatherings of soul boys, punks and prog rockers, all united by vinyl obsession. Staff recommendations launched careers. Supposedly, Johnny Marr discovered the Velvet Underground through a Virgin employee's suggestion. Today's Oxford Street, dominated by American candy stores and souvenir shops, offers nothing remotely comparable. The 70s marked the Thames rehabilitation from open sewer to merely filthy river. Brave souls actually swam from various spots along the river, and the annual Thames swimming race still happened, though the water quality was questionable at best. What's remarkable is that people genuinely thought the river was getting cleaner. Fish were returning, and there was real optimism about urban swimming's future. The controversial truth. Today's Thames is actually cleaner than in the 70s, yet swimming is more restricted. The Port of London Authority issues hefty fines, citing safety concerns that didn't bother anyone in 1975. The difference is our relationship with risk. 70s Londoners accepted that city living meant occasional danger, while modern London treats its citizens like fragile children who need protecting from themselves. Finsbury Park's Rainbow Theatre hosted everyone from Bob Marley's legendary 1977 shows to the Clash's out-of-control Christmas performances. What made the Rainbow special wasn't just the acts, it was the venue's chaotic democracy. No seated sections for the wealthy, minimal security, and a general admission policy that meant a plumber from Plaistow could end up next to Pete Townshend's girlfriend. The venue's 1981 closure symbolised the end of London's golden age of live music. The building still stands, now a Pentecostal church, but its transformation represents how London exchanged communal experiences for privatised entertainment. Modern venues like the O2 offer perfect sightlines and premium experiences, but they've lost that sweaty, dangerous intimacy where performer and audience merged into one writhing organism. In 1975, a bedsit in Earl's Court cost £8 weekly, roughly 20% of an average wage. Young teachers, nurses and shop assistants lived in Notting Hill, Chelsea, even Mayfair if they didn't mind a grotty conversion. This geographic democracy meant London's culture emerged from genuine diversity, not the curated approximation we see today. The numbers are staggering. That same Earl's Court bedsit now rents for £800 weekly, while average wages have only increased tenfold. Entire professions, teaching, nursing, artistic work, have been economically cleansed from central London. When today's politicians wonder why London lacks the creative energy of the 70s, they might consider that pricing out everyone interesting tends to kill culture. Before licensing reforms, London pubs operated on mysterious, flexible hours that depended entirely on the landlord's mood and the local bobby's tolerance. Lock-ins were institutional, with curtains drawn and regular customers drinking until dawn. The George in Southwark allegedly never closed during the 70s, operating on the principle that there was always someone, somewhere, who needed a pint. This flexibility created a different drinking culture. Without strict closing times, there was no desperate 10:50 rush to order 6 pints. People drank slower, conversations meandered longer, and the pub fulfilled its true function as community living room. Today's licensing, despite 24-hour possibilities, actually created less freedom. Now everywhere closes at regulation times because insurance and staffing costs make flexibility impossible. London in the 70s was dirty, dangerous, and often deeply unpleasant. It was also alive in ways today's sanitised capital can never match. We've gained Deliveroo and lost community. We've gained safety and lost adventure. We've gained property values and lost our soul. The real tragedy isn't that these 15 things have vanished, it's that we've forgotten why they mattered. They represented a city that belonged to everyone, where a bus conductor and a baronet might drink in the same pub, where creativity mattered more than credit ratings, where life was lived rather than curated for Instagram. If this journey through London's lost world has stirred something in you, a memory, a regret, or just curiosity about how we got here, then hit that subscribe button. Because understanding what we've lost is the first step to demanding something better than the hollow theme park London's becoming. Until next time, keep questioning progress, keep demanding more than safety and convenience, and remember, the best things about old London weren't the buildings or the buses, but the belief that cities should be for everyone, not just the wealthy. Cheers.